Denzel Washington is a famous actor. He is known for being strong, calm, and very wise. People look up to him because he always speaks with care and shows kindness. But one day, something happened that surprised everyone. Denzel was talking on live TV. Many people were watching from all over the world. He was smiling and answering questions. Then, the host said, "We have a special phone call for you." Denzel looked surprised. On the screen, a name popped up. President Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso. Denzel's eyes opened wide. He didn't expect a call from a president, especially not from Africa. The host pressed a button, and the president's voice came through the speakers. "Hello, Mr. Denzel Washington," President Traoré said kindly. "I want to thank you." Denzel sat very still. "Thank me?" he asked softly. "For what?" President Traoré continued. "For always speaking the truth, for showing black children around the world that they can be strong, smart, and good leaders. You inspire many of us, even here in Burkina Faso. My people love you. I love you. You have changed lives without even knowing it." Denzel's lips began to shake. He tried to smile, but his eyes filled with tears. He looked down and wiped his face, but the tears kept coming. The studio got quiet. Everyone watching felt the moment in their hearts. I don't know what to say," Denzel whispered. "This means more to me than any award I've ever won." President Traoré spoke again, his voice warm and steady. "There's more I want to share with you, if you don't mind." Denzel nodded slowly, his voice shaking a little. "Please, I'm listening." President Traoré continued. "In my country, many young people watch your movies. They listen to your speeches. They say, 'If Denzel can do it, maybe I can too.' You give them hope. You remind them they are not forgotten, that they matter." Denzel looked up, his eyes still full of tears. He wasn't acting. This was real. He placed a hand over his heart and said softly, "Thank you. I never knew. I didn't know I reached that far." The president spoke gently. "You didn't have to know. You were just doing what was right. That's what makes it special." Then President Traoré said something that made the room completely still. "We want to honor you, Mr. Washington. The children in Burkina Faso made something for you with their own hands. A gift of thanks. It's waiting for you at our embassy." Denzel covered his mouth with his hand, trying not to cry out loud. "Children made me something?" he whispered. "Yes," the president said. "They painted pictures of you. They wrote letters. Some even sang songs in your honor. They said, 'This man reminds us we can be brave, even when life is hard.'" Denzel wiped his face again and shook his head in disbelief. "I've received awards before," he said slowly. "But this is the greatest honor of my life." The audience in the studio began to clap, but softly, like they didn't want to break the moment. The host stood beside Denzel, speechless. Then President Traoré's voice grew stronger. "One more thing, Mr. Washington. We would be honored if you would come visit us. Come to Burkina Faso. Let the children see the man who helped them believe." Denzel looked straight into the camera, then back at the speaker. "I will come," he said. "I promise. I'll come and thank them with my own voice, face to face." The call ended, but Denzel stayed quiet for a few seconds. He looked around the studio. Everyone was watching him with gentle eyes. No one said a word. Then, with a deep breath, Denzel stood up slowly. He looked toward the camera again and said, "To all the children out there in Burkina Faso and everywhere else, never give up. You are already great. You just don't know it yet." Just then, something even more surprising happened. A young girl stood up from the audience. She looked about 10 years old and held a small drawing in her hands. She walked slowly toward Denzel. The room was quiet, and everyone watched. The host gently said, "It's okay, sweetheart. You can go." The girl walked right up to Denzel and handed him the picture. "I'm from Burkina Faso too," she said in a small voice. "My family moved here last year. I drew this for you." Denzel knelt down to her level. He took the picture carefully. It was a drawing of him holding hands with children, smiling under the sun. Above it, in big letters, were the words, "Thank you, Uncle Denzel." He looked at the drawing for a moment, and his eyes filled with tears again. He hugged the little girl gently and whispered, "You have no idea how much this means to me." The girl smiled and said, "My papa always says, Denzel is a hero without a cape." Everyone in the room felt something deep in their hearts. The cameraman wiped his eyes. Even the host had to take a breath before speaking. Then the host turned to Denzel and said, "Would you like to say something to the children watching in Burkina Faso right now? We're live, and they're watching." Denzel nodded, stood up tall, and looked into the camera again. His voice was strong but soft. "To the children of Burkina Faso, I see you, I hear you, and I believe in you. You have power inside of you that no one can take away. You are smart, you are strong, and you matter. Keep dreaming, keep going. And one day, the whole world will know your names." Just then, the screen behind Denzel lit up. A live video began playing. It showed a group of children in a small village in Burkina Faso, sitting outside on the ground, smiling and waving at the camera. Some held little signs that said, "We love you, Denzel." Others held up their drawings. One small boy stepped forward, holding a handmade drum. He began to play a gentle rhythm. Then the other children began to sing a song. It was in their language, but the feeling in their voices needed no translation. Denzel put a hand over his heart again. "Oh my God," he whispered. The song ended, and the children all cheered and clapped for him. The studio erupted in applause. People were standing now. Tears were everywhere. This was more than just a TV interview. It was a moment the world would never forget. And just when everyone thought the moment couldn't get any more powerful, the host leaned in and said with a smile, "Denzel, we just got news. Your flight to Burkina Faso is ready. The president has sent a plane. They're waiting for you." Denzel looked shocked. "They sent a plane? For me?" The host laughed softly. "Yes, and they said, 'Tell Uncle Denzel to come home.'" Denzel looked around the studio one more time. Then he smiled through his tears and said, Denzel smiled through his tears and said, "Then I'm going home." The whole room cheered. People clapped, cried, and hugged each other. The little girl who gave him the drawing was still standing near him, holding his hand. Denzel gently squeezed it and whispered, "You just gave me the strength I needed." A few hours later, Denzel arrived at the airport. Cameras followed him, but he didn't mind. He wasn't there for the spotlight, he was there for the children. A small group of people were waiting near a private jet. On the side of the plane, painted in big gold letters, were the words, "Hope One, for the future of Burkina Faso." The flight crew greeted him with wide smiles. One of them handed him a folder filled with letters from children back in the country. Denzel sat in his seat, opened the folder, and began reading. One letter said, "Dear Denzel, thank you for being brave. When I feel scared, I pretend I am like you, and then I feel better." Another said, "My dream is to be a teacher one day. I want to be kind like you." Tears rolled down Denzel's cheeks again. He wasn't reading words, he was feeling hearts. The flight to Burkina Faso took several hours, but it felt like minutes. As the plane got close to landing, the pilot spoke over the intercom. "Mr. Washington, look out the window." Denzel turned and gasped. Below him, the land of Burkina Faso stretched out like a beautiful painting, fields, trees, tiny villages, and one big gathering of people near a large open field. There were children, families, elders, all standing together, waiting. They had banners, flags, drums, and big signs that said, "Welcome home, Uncle Denzel," and "The children thank you." As the plane touched down, Denzel felt something he couldn't explain. It was like his heart was being wrapped in light. When the door opened, the heat of Africa touched his skin and the cheers of the people filled the air. A group of children ran forward, dressed in beautiful, colorful clothes. One little boy held a crown made of beads and leaves. He placed it gently on Denzel's head and said, "We crown you with honor, not for being famous, but for loving us." Denzel knelt down to the children's level and said, "Thank you. I came to give love, but you've given me more than I ever dreamed. President Traore stepped forward, smiling with pride. He shook Denzel's hand and said, "Welcome home, brother." Denzel looked out at the sea of faces, young and old, and said loudly, "This is the most important role I've ever had. Not in a movie, but in real life, to lift up the next generation." The people cheered, and the drums began to play. Then something magical happened. The children formed a circle, holding hands. One by one, they each said their dreams aloud. "I want to be a doctor. I want to be a singer. I want to be president one day." Denzel walked into the circle and said, "And I want to help you get there." As the sun began to set, the sky turned gold and orange. The air was full of laughter, music, and hope. But just when Denzel thought the day was over, one of the elders approached him with a quiet voice and said, "There is one more place we want to show you, a place that will change you forever." Denzel looked at the elder, curious. "Where is it?" he asked. The elder smiled and pointed to the horizon. "Come, the children will lead the way." And so, with the children guiding him, Denzel began walking toward something unknown, but deeply powerful. Denzel followed the children along a dusty path that led away from the crowd and toward the setting sun. The orange sky painted long shadows across the ground. The children laughed and skipped ahead, barefoot and full of joy, while the elders and villagers watched quietly from a distance. The elder who had spoken to Denzel walked beside him, leaning on a carved wooden staff. "This place we are going to," the elder said softly, "is called the Tree of Voices. It is very old. Some say it is where our ancestors speak to us." Denzel listened closely, every word sinking deep into his heart. They walked for a while until they reached a wide, open field. In the middle stood a giant tree, unlike any Denzel had ever seen. Its trunk was thick and twisted with time, and its branches reached far into the sky like open arms. Colorful ribbons and little handmade objects hung from its limbs. Necklaces, drawings, dolls, paper hearts, and tiny wooden carvings. "This," the elder said, "is where we bring our wishes, and our pain, and our dreams." One by one, the children stepped forward. Each child had something in their hand, a letter, a bead, a drawing. They gently tied or placed their gifts onto the tree. A little girl turned to Denzel and held out a small piece of paper. "Will you hang mine with me?" she asked. Denzel took the note gently. "Of course," he said. Together they walked to the tree and tied the note on a low branch. Denzel asked, "What does it say?" The girl smiled. "It says, 'I want the world to be kind.'" Denzel knelt down, touched the paper, and whispered, "That's the best wish I've ever heard." Then the elder handed Denzel a small, empty cloth pouch. "This is for you," he said. "Write your message, your hope, your truth, and place it in the tree. It will stay here forever." Denzel took the pouch and sat beneath the tree. He pulled out a pen and a piece of paper and began to write. He didn't rush. He thought about every child he had met, every word spoken, every tear shed. When he finished, he folded the note, placed it inside the pouch, and gently hung it on the tree. The wind blew softly, and the tree rustled as if whispering back. The children gathered around him again. Sitting in a circle point, one boy raised his hand and asked, "Uncle Denzel, do you think you'll come back?" Denzel looked at each of their faces, the hope, the trust, the love, and said, "I won't just come back. I'll never leave you. Even when I'm far away, I'll be thinking of you, speaking about you, and doing everything I can to help you grow." Then he paused and added, "And one day, you will be the ones teaching the world." The elder nodded. "Yes, because when a man gives hope to children, he plants a forest of dreams." Night had fallen now. The stars blinked in the sky like tiny lights of promise. The children sang a soft song, and Denzel joined in, his deep voice blending with theirs as they walked back toward the village. Torches lit the path. More people had gathered. They were waiting with a surprise. In the center of the village square stood a stage made from wood and woven cloth. On it, young performers stood ready. They had written a play about Denzel's life, his journey, his words, his kindness. They acted out scenes from his movies and speeches, but also moments that only their hearts could understand. A man choosing to do good when no one is watching. As the play ended, the children all lifted their hands and shouted, "Thank you, Uncle Denzel." He stood, overwhelmed, and took a deep breath. "No," he said, "thank you for teaching me." Then, a new voice called out from the crowd, "Mr. Washington, the President has invited you to speak at our National Children's Day tomorrow. He says the whole country will be watching." Denzel looked at the children, then the stars, then back to the crowd. "I'll be there," he said with a smile. And so, the journey continued. The next morning, the sun rose over Burkina Faso, casting golden light across the rooftops, trees, and fields. The whole country was alive with excitement. It was National Children's Day, a special day to honor and celebrate the future of the nation. In the capital city, people filled the streets, waving flags and holding colorful signs. Schools were closed, music filled the air, and children wore traditional clothes made from bright fabrics. Everyone was waiting to hear from the man who had become a symbol of hope, Uncle Denzel. Denzel Washington stood quietly backstage at the National Square, wearing a traditional Burkina Faso robe given to him by the elders the night before. It was deep blue with golden patterns, and around his neck was a necklace made of beads strung by the village children. President Ibrahim Traoré walked up beside him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "They are ready for you," the president said. "Speak from your heart. That's all they want." Denzel nodded, his eyes calm but full of emotion. He stepped up to the microphone. A sea of children sat in front of him. Behind them, cameras streamed the event across the entire country. Villages, towns, and cities had all gathered to watch. He took a deep breath and began. "Good morning, Burkina Faso," he said. "Good morning, my beautiful brothers and sisters." The crowd cheered. "I came here not as a star, not as a movie actor," Denzel continued. "I came here as a listener, as a student, as a man who knows that true greatness lives not in awards or lights or fame, but in the hearts of the people." He looked around at the children sitting quietly, listening closely. "I've met many of you this week. I've seen your smiles, your drawings, your songs, and your dreams. And I want you to hear me clearly now." He paused, his voice growing stronger. "You are not too small. You are not too poor. You are not forgotten. You are powerful. You are important. You are the future." The children clapped and some began to cheer. One little boy shouted, "We love you, Uncle Denzel." Denzel smiled wide and raised his hand. "I love you too," he said. "Each of you. And I promise this visit is not the end. It's just the beginning. I want to build something here. A center, a safe place, where children can learn, create, and grow." The president smiled, surprised but deeply moved. The crowd gasped in joy. Denzel continued, "We'll call it the Tree of Voices Learning Center. It will be built near the great tree we visited. A place for stories, for dreams, for learning, and for healing." The children began chanting, "Tree of Voices, Tree of Voices." Denzel laughed and nodded. "Yes, because when we listen to each other, we grow strong like that tree, rooted in love, reaching toward the sky." Suddenly, a large group of young drummers came marching down the road, beating rhythms of celebration. Behind them were dancers, singers, and more children carrying books and art. They were part of a parade for children, led by the man they now called family. President Traore leaned into the microphone and said, "From this day on, we will remember this moment. Let it be written in our history books. The day when a voice from far away came home and reminded us of who we are." Denzel stood quietly, letting the moment sink in. He looked at the faces around him, smiling, hopeful, shining in the sun. Then, with a smile, he said, "Let's build something beautiful together." And as the drums rolled, and the voices rose, and the joy swept through the streets of Burkina Faso, Denzel knew deep in his soul, this was his greatest role yet. But the journey wasn't over. That night, back in the village, the elder found him once again by the Tree of Voices. The stars twinkled above, and the wind carried the soft sound of children laughing in the distance. The elder looked at Denzel and said, "There is one more story you must hear, one that has waited many years for you." Denzel turned to the elder, surprised. "A story for me?" The elder nodded and pointed to the base of the tree. "Come, sit. It begins with your ancestors and ends with your destiny." And so, under the stars, with the voices of children all around, Denzel sat down to listen once more. Denzel sat cross-legged at the base of the great tree, the bark warm behind him and the stars shining above like ancient eyes. The elder lowered himself slowly onto the earth beside him. The air was still, but it was full of memory, of something sacred. "The story I'm about to tell you," the elder began, his voice low and steady, "has not been spoken aloud for many years. It was passed down from voice to voice, not written in books. It is about a boy who became a bridge between worlds." Denzel listened closely, his hands resting on his knees. "Long ago," the elder continued, "in a small village not far from here, a young boy was born during a thunderstorm. The sky cracked open and rain poured down, but the child did not cry. He only looked up and smiled at the sky. The elders said he had the heart of the lion and the eyes of the sky. They believed he would one day carry the spirit of the people to distant lands. But before he grew old, he was taken away during a time of great trouble. His family lost him. No one knew where he went. Some said he crossed oceans. Others said he became a star." Denzel felt something stir in his chest, something deep and strange. "The people mourned him," the elder said. "But the prophecy said this: he will return one day, not as a child, but as a voice. He will come with the wisdom of many lands and the heart of home. And when he stands beneath the tree of voices, the circle will be made whole." The elder turned to Denzel now, his eyes soft but glowing. "You, Denzel, you are that voice." Denzel's breath caught. "But I was born in America," he said. "How could I be that boy?" The elder smiled. "Blood travels farther than feet. Spirit is deeper than borders. Your roots go farther back than your name. The strength you carry is not only yours. It is the echo of generations calling you home." Silence wrapped around them. The tree leaves rustled gently. Denzel looked up at the tree of voices and whispered, "So, this is where I was meant to be." "Yes," the elder said. "Not just to visit, but to awaken something that was sleeping. To remind our people and yourself of a truth that never died." Just then, the wind blew harder, and a ribbon tied to the tree danced free and floated into Denzel's lap. It was old, faded, but still bright with the hand-stitched word, "Return." Denzel closed his eyes and felt the tears fall. Not tears of sadness, not even of joy, but of recognition, like something inside him had found its missing piece. The elder stood slowly and placed a hand on Denzel's shoulder. "Tonight, you are not only a visitor. You are family. You are home." The next morning, the entire village gathered again. This time not for a speech, not for a celebration, but for a ceremony. They dressed Denzel in white, the color of renewal. Children walked in front of him, tossing flower petals. Drummers played slow, steady rhythms that echoed like heartbeats. The villagers circled around the tree of voices, now glowing with ribbons and gifts, and Denzel stepped forward. President Traore handed him a carved wooden staff. "This is our gift to you," he said, "a symbol of the journey you've walked, and the journey's still ahead. With it, may you lead with wisdom, and always walk in truth." Denzel accepted the staff, holding it close. Then he turned to the children and said, "I'm not just your Uncle Denzel anymore. I am your brother, your friend, your family. And no matter where I go, I carry you with me." The children cheered, the elders nodded, and the drums rose into the sky. From that day forward, Denzel began work on the Tree of Voices Learning Center. He invited teachers, artists, builders, and storytellers from around the world to help. Children helped design the walls with their drawings. The first stone was placed with hundreds of tiny hands. But the most beautiful part? Every morning, before the lessons began, The children gathered under the great tree and told stories. Their own stories, loud and proud. And far, far away, in places like New York, Los Angeles, and London, people watched the progress and asked, "What is this place in Burkina Faso that is changing lives?" And the answer, whispered from heart to heart, was always the same. It started with a phone call and a man who listened, but the story was still not finished. Because one night, many months later, as the stars blinked high above, a mysterious letter arrived at the learning center, and in it were 3 words, "It is time." The letter, written in simple, careful handwriting, arrived under the door of the Tree of Voices Learning Center. It was sealed with red wax and tied with a string made from tree bark. Denzel opened it slowly. Inside, on a single piece of handmade paper, were just 3 words, "It is time." No name, no address, but deep in his heart, Denzel understood. That night, he returned to the great tree under the stars. The village was quiet. The children were asleep. The leaves of the Tree of Voices shimmered in the moonlight. As he stood there, the elder stepped out from the shadows once more. "You've given the children hope," the elder said softly. "You've planted seeds. Now it is time to let them grow on their own." Denzel looked up at the tree and whispered, "So, I must go." The elder nodded. "You have done your part. But remember, true love does not cling. It empowers." The next morning, the entire village gathered again. Denzel stood before them, the same staff in his hand, the same warm smile on his face. The children gathered close, sensing something important was about to happen. "My dear family," he began. "When I first came here, I didn't know what I would find, but what I found was you. You showed me the meaning of home, the power of love, and the strength of dreams." He paused, letting the silence speak. "I must return to the world beyond this place, not to leave you behind, but to carry your stories, your spirit, your light into places that need it most." A little girl ran forward, hugging him tight. "Will you come back?" Denzel knelt and looked into her eyes. "Always. In your stories, in your songs, and in your hearts. This isn't goodbye. It's go forward. With hugs, tears, laughter, and one last dance around the great tree, Denzel Washington said farewell to the village of Burkina Faso that had become his second home. He boarded the plane, holding tightly the staff and a bundle of letters from the children. As the plane rose into the sky, he looked out the window and saw the Tree of Voices, still standing tall, still surrounded by laughter and hope. Back in America, Denzel didn't return to the big movie sets. Instead, he went from city to city, school to school, telling the story of the children of Burkina Faso. He built scholarships, wrote books, created documentaries. He started a movement, the Tree of Voices Project, to help children around the world tell their stories, dream freely, and believe in their worth. And everywhere he went, he carried with him a simple truth. The strongest people are not the loudest. The wisest leaders are not the richest. And the greatest gift one person can give is belief in another. True greatness is not measured by fame, money, or awards, but by how much love, hope, and courage we give to others. A single act of kindness, a call, a visit, a word, can change someone's life forever. Just like Denzel, you have the power to listen, to lift, and to lead with love. And when you do, you plant a tree that will grow for generations. The end. Or maybe just the beginning. Glowing star.